So good afternoon. As Nancy said, I'm Lynette Evans-Tiernan. I'm part of the Virginia delegation, and I work for the U.S. Department of State, which is the U.S. government's foreign affairs agency, just to give you the context. So, we move people to move ideas. That is the motto of the Bureau of Education and Cultural Affairs. We do that by sending talented Americans abroad and bringing emerging young leaders to the United States. When most people think about diplomacy, they think about high-level ministerials, international summits, trade negotiations. And while these government-to-government interactions are important, in my bureau, we believe that the grassroots interactions between US citizens and people of other countries are also important to strengthening individual ties and promoting cooperation. This is what we call public diplomacy, or people-to-people diplomacy. And people-to-people diplomacy allows the State Department to achieve a number of key foreign policy goals. The first one is what we call creating citizen ambassadors. It's the idea that by sending people abroad and bringing them to the US, they're exposed to new cultures. And they come back home and they can foster intercultural learning and understanding within their communities. Secondly, exchanges help us build a more peaceful and prosperous world. It's the idea that when you're in your host community, you form long-lasting friendships across borders, across time zones, across oceans. And so when you look at the globe or you look at a map, you're no longer seeing these countries that you don't know anything about. You're seeing places where your friends live and countries that you know something about. So when countries have issues, as they often do, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, instead of wanting to go to war, the idea is that you'll want to call your friends in other countries, sit down at the negotiation table, and find a solution to the problem. So we call this words, not war. The third thing that the State Department uses exchanges for is to cultivate the next generation of leaders. A lot about what we're trying to accomplish at this summit this week. We want to allow people to create networks around issues that they're passionate about so that they can have the tools and the resources and the networks to take these ideas and to transform them into action. And some of the themes and topics that we care about are some of the same ones here at the summit. Some of them are more broad, and I'll just go through them quickly. Things like disability rights, volunteerism, social inclusion, economic prosperity, entrepreneurship, combating violent extremism, and counterterrorism. So these are just issues that the State Department wants people to kind of cluster around and find solutions. So this is why exchanges matter, and exchanges are important to US foreign policy goals. One final thought for you on youth activism and voice. Are there any other folks out in the audience who are Harry Potter fans, who've read the book series? Okay, a lot of you. So several years ago, J.K. Rowling gave a speech to Harvard graduates called The Fringe Benefits of Failure and the Power of Imagination. Quick summary of the speech. Before she became a worldwide sensation, J.K. Rowling lived in poverty. She was a single mother, and by most people's definition, she was a failure. And in her speech, she spends a lot of time explaining that she does not glamorize this experience at all because she did not know that it would have a fairy tale ending. But she talks about how failure stripped away the inessential. It allowed her to pour all of her energy into the one thing that mattered most to her, which was being a writer. And it also taught her things about herself, that she had a strong sense of determination, the will to survive, and she found out that she had friends that were more valuable than rubies. Imagination. A lot of you might think that that has to do with her rebuilding her life, but she talks about how she worked at Amnesty International, working with people who were experiencing human rights violations. And she said the unique thing about humans is we have the power of imagination, and that gives us the capacity to imagine ourselves in other people's shoes. We can understand and learn things just by hearing about them. And so that gives us the ability to take collective action on issues that we identify and want to find a solution to. So the reason that I bring this speech up is because it's something that has really inspired me, but I also feel like the US government's goal of creating mutual understanding between people in different countries and this idea about imagination have three things in common. They require us to have understanding, They require us to have awareness, and they also require us to have empathy. Empathy for other people's cultures, empathy for other people's experiences, empathy for other people's struggles. And so my message to you is this: as global pathfinders, if you can be imaginative, if you can be culturally aware, if you can use your efforts to build networks, I'm losing my thought, but if you can use your efforts to build networks, if you can come together and take collective action, and if you can use failure as an opportunity to learn and move forward, then you have all the tools you need to shape the future and to change the world. Thank you.